This week, we're focused on intelligent data for smarter AI. My esteemed colleague this week is Peter Manta. I've known Peter, I guess I've known you for about 12 years. You're a great husband, great father. And you're also the one guy who, when I started working with Informatica about 12 years ago, was really able to boil down Informatica and the technology as to how it affected the business and the business impact. So thank you for that introduction to Informatica, and then all your support over the years, and keep me on the straight and narrow as to what Informatica does and how it does it. So, but Peter, you want to take a few minutes to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on the call today. Yeah, we've had a good, long relationship, and I very much appreciate that. It's always fun chatting with you and bouncing these ideas off each other. For those who I haven't met, thanks for joining. My name is Peter Manta, as Chris said. I am the Global AI Strategy Leader with Informatica, and I lead also our community of practice internally around AI. And what that means is AI, it seems to be a thing lately. So there's a lot of interest in AI, of course. And there's been a strong correlation. Our hypothesis is there's been a strong correlation between data management and AI. And it's we're not cracking the atom of that one. Better data means better AI outcomes. So that's my role. I've been with Informatica for 18 years now in a variety of different roles. But this is, I would say, the most exciting as of late, is kind of leading the charge on how do we apply data management practices to better our AI outcomes. So again, thanks for having me today.
Hey, Peter, congratulations on 18 years in Informatica. That's an incredible journey. And hey, folks, I'm Chris Gately. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Paradigm Technology Consulting. As you can see by the snow on my roof, I've had a little bit of experience in technologies over the last 20 plus years, and especially with data and all things that are data. And Paradigm Technology as a whole, Paradigm Technology Consulting, was really started about 30 years ago. We've had the great fortune of working with, Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1000, and even some startups that are really doing some really incredible things like Iris Cloud. But our focuses are really, or our emphasis has really been in a couple of areas: CPG, manufacturing, financial services, utilities, all supporting those clients and doing something what we call the power of paradigm. Right? It's that understanding of our client's vision, right, for their business, helping them drive innovative solutions, but most importantly, how do you identify and communicate the value, that quantifiable value that we deliver to them. And we're fortunate to work with an incredible partner like Informatica, who are obviously the leaders of turning data chaos into data clarity with AI, and incredible people like Peter here. As we talked about the focus today, that intersection of data management and AI. How does effective data management unlock AI's full potential? Peter, as I was researching for today's discussion, I came across an interesting survey fact. And that was, I can't remember exactly who the survey team was, but that 56% of CDOs cite data reliability as a key barrier to transitioning more Gen AI pilots into production. And that 30% of pilots are abandoned due to poor data. Data is obviously a big challenge, continues to be, has been. I know you are deep in data. Informatica is deep in data. What are your thoughts on why it's so difficult to solve?
Yeah, a few things, and I've seen similar surveys. The interesting thing is I saw a survey that talked about 56% are data challenges, and the top 5 issues that people had implementing these generative AI and some of these AI use cases were all data related, whether it's data quality or accessing data from complicated systems, or whether it's negotiating and navigating these upcoming AI initiatives and regulations. All of that becomes difficult. And how do we use the data for AI purposes? So you're right. I saw another one where the 93% of people want to do something with AI, but the majority haven't really been very successful. And my feeling, of course, and this is not going to be a surprise to our audience here, is these are data-related issues. The AI itself, that's really the easy part. With our ecosystems, making that easier, AWS and Microsoft and Google, et cetera, and even writing Python hand code, there's packages you can download just so the AI piece is actually easy. The hard part and the bulk of the work is getting the data ready for the AI piece. And so, not a surprise, again, the answer coming from me, but I think that these, a lot of these challenges stem from the fact that we don't do a good enough job getting the data ready, such the AI outcomes will be more authoritative at the end.
No, that's a really good point, Peter. Um, you know, another stat that I saw was that Gartner predicts that by 2027, 60% of organizations will fail to realize the expected value of AI in their use cases due to incohesive governance and framework. Why is it so important to have good data governance and data quality programs and frameworks, on the front end of what they're doing? I mean, can you talk more about what Informatica is doing in this space of data assets and data as a whole, and getting data truly ready for AI?
Sure. So it's interesting because when we do a better job with data management, we do a better job with our AI use cases. And when we have more authoritative outcomes from AI, that means more people want to use those models. And the more the people want to use those models, the more that we need to put governance around the models. We have to catalog these things and make them searchable. We need to document the usage characteristics and the consumption mechanisms. We need to document that we've tried to train the models with an eye towards ethics and fairness and non-biasness, make the models transparent and explainable. So all of the governance that we wrap around AI is really dependent on the success we're having with the models. And so the better job we do with the modeling, the more we need the governance. And of course, the better job we do with modeling means that the answers we're getting back, whether it's a traditional data science application or a generative AI application, the answers we're getting back from those things had better be authoritative. So if I ask a question and I get an answer back ask a question about unit price, which I'll show you in a little bit, that number better be correct. If we're making decisions based on outcomes of AI, those numbers had better be correct, and the data coming back had better be correct. So that says we need to do a much better job with data quality up front, such that the AI doesn't know if it's right or wrong. It only knows as much as the data. So if the data is better, AI is going to be coming up with those outcomes that people can depend for making their data-driven decisions. So really, governance, if we're including things like privacy and security and quality and cataloging and all of those governance aspects, they're important on both the front and the back end of these AI applications, right? Make sure we do a good job with the data. And then when we're doing a good job with the models, we have to put governance around that so people can actually use them in a governed manner. So governance, I think, like everything data is critical, as you always.
Yeah, completely critical. It goes into that old adage, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
if you take that a step further into, there's always structured data and unstructured data, right? Like if you look at the unstructured data component of it, I take a look at a client that we work with, right? Customer service folks that are in a call center environment that's trying to, unlock that sentiment analysis using things like emotional or affective computing with large language models for real-time action, on a call. It takes unstructured data and running that through an AI program to get a lot of insights for call center managers, not only to help enable those in-flight calls, but to better train their employees and handle situations. That type of AI, effective computing, is really it's projected to be an $88 billion market by the end of this year and growing at 26% year over year. There's a lot of AI tools, that are out there to there's a lot of AI tools that allow us to dive into those narratives, right? And those narratives just keep getting bigger and bigger as time goes on. But how do you support making, that kind of data actionable?
Sure. And I agree. I think that use case you described, kind of the customer support use case, is one of the biggest things that we see. We've got our customer service representatives, someone who's been doing the job for 10 or 20 years, and they retire and they're off golfing and fishing. But when they leave, right, all of that information that was in their head about how whatever product that they're supporting, however that works, their knowledge about interaction with customers, their kind of undocumented knowledge about the tricks, and the best practices you need. Well, to really make this thing work, you have to push this button over here, right? All of that stuff walks away with them. But a lot of times what we see is, to your point around unstructured data, that knowledge is captured in things like emails and blog posts and internal documents and old versions of product documentation, right? All of the unstructured data that represents that person's 10 years of knowledge who's now gone off golfing. Taking that and indexing all that in an AI application is not difficult to do. Same thing on the structured data side. we want to make sure that we've got our customers, for example, who live inside of something, Salesforce or SAP or whatever it might be. We've got our customers there in a structured format. That's not making those available to AI is also not that difficult. The hard part is linking those two things together. So when somebody calls in and we've got a new customer service representative on the phone who answers, they want to say, which customer am I talking to? Right, so the AI needs to be able to go into Salesforce or whatever it might be and pull that specific piece of structured customer information back for them. But then they also need to link it to all of the unstructured data. So this customer's got a particular issue. How can I help solve their issue? Ask a question to this 10 years of knowledge base of emails and product documentation and blog posts that people who might have left the company have left behind, and make the AI be able to respond as though we still had that person with those 10 years of knowledge here. So doing each of those things, structured versus unstructured individually, isn't that tough, but it's linking those things together and saying, when we're talking to a specific customer, what unstructured information would be relevant then to answer that customer's question. So that's really kind of where the trick is. And that's where we've been focusing a lot, is making sure this concept of robust information or robust data for AI, we're capturing everything, structured, unstructured, everything in between.
Yeah, I know you guys have put a lot of thought and effort on that over the years, because you've had access to both unstructured and structured data, and you're going back to the local knowledge, right? And trying to capture that and bring that in really has a big impact. So I just can't give you guys enough kudos on that. Let's see. There's a lot of talk, or let's call it 2024. I think as you've even said to me, has been the year of RAG, right?
Yeah.
How do the principles and concepts of data quality really apply to RAG? Those retrieval augmented generation systems. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so RAG was all the rage, as you said correctly, in 2024. And retrieval augmented generation, exactly what that means is taking a language model and augmenting its responses with proprietary and authoritative information. That is, the most important part is that it's contextually sound, right? So if I go and I ask an AI application, tell me about the color blue, right? It'll come back and it'll say, well, blue is generally associated with the color of the sky or the ocean, or it's a style of music, or it's a particular mood. I'm feeling blue today, right? But if I'm a paint manufacturing company and I ask that exact same question, I say, tell me about the color blue, I would expect the AI application and I'll return with, well, we sell 14 different shades of blue, ranging from sky blue to navy, and we have 3 different finishes, satin and gloss, and you get the idea. So the idea of the RAG application is to say, let's make these AI applications, let's augment their knowledge with this authoritative and this proprietary information that no other AI application has access to, such that when we ask these questions, we're getting good data back. The answers have to be correct, again, to your point around data quality. We're making sure that data has been cleaned ahead of time. And then second, it has to be contextually accurate. So we need to be answering in the context of the question we're asking, like a paint manufacturing company versus a music band, where if I'm asking about, tell me about blue, it's going to be a whole discography of B.B. King and that kind of music. Right, so contextually accurate really is the key to the whole thing, and data quality plays in all of that. So 2024 was definitely the year of the RAG application. It's still very relevant today, but we're seeing some of the winds shift a little bit towards other things as well.
Yeah, your comment about contextually accurate is really, really the key, right? If you don't have the right data, you really can't get that context.
Yeah.
And as you said, blue from a paint color to blues, as in the blue, as in jazz, right? Much, much different contextually. And so it's super important to have, as you said, the right data, the right data governance around it, the data quality, those kind of things really drive a lot of those components. With curated data is really that gateway between work that was done and intelligent delivery. The more governance and quality you perform upstream, obviously the better off the products are downstream. And now that the products are shifting from 2024 to RAGs, and RAG is still going to be popular, still a key piece, so that people can use their own local data. But 2025 is obviously being teed up to being not only the year of a new presidency, but also the agentic AI, right? What do you see the impact there with agentic AI?
Yeah, and that was when I alluded to the winds changing a little bit a second ago. That's really where I was going with that, is agentic AI. And we in the AI world, we try to make things sound fancier and more difficult than they really are. Right? RAG application is not that tough. We're just augmenting AI with some proprietary information. Agentic AI it's a similar thing. It's a fancy sounding word, but the concept behind it is really not that difficult. It is all an AI agent is some little AI application that knows how to do one particular task and do it well. So an example, if I tell my phone, and I'm not going to say, hey, SIRI, because everybody online will, I don't want to light up everybody's phone. But if I say, hey, SIRI, schedule a meeting for me, 2 p.m. Pacific, to talk to Chris, right? It has no problem doing that. It'll drop a meeting in my calendar. But if I say, hey, SIRI, schedule a meeting next week for Chris and I, right? That's a very different question. And if there's an agentic AI process in the background, it's kind of driving that. What that means, it needs to figure out a bunch of things. But first, who is Chris, right? So there needs to be an AI agent that goes into my contacts and says, oh, Chris means Chris Gately from Paradigm. And oh, I see there's another agent that says, well, where is Chris Gately? Oh, Chris is in Mountain Time. Peter's in Pacific Time. So now we need to coordinate these two different time zones. So there'd be an AI agent that figures out our time zones and coordinates that. There'd be another agent that knows how to get into Chris's calendar, knows how to get into my calendar, and looks for open spots, right? So there's all of these individual agents that can perform a task and just do one thing. And then there's this kind of Uber planning agent that says, okay, now how do I go and I coordinate the series of agents to solve the problem that we're asking about? Because I can ask my phone anything. I can say, take a note for me or read a text or schedule a meeting. So that planning agent needs to figure out what I'm telling it to do. And then it says, okay, I need to go into the contact agent, figure out who Chris is. I need to go into the time zone agent, coordinate time zones, and pinning all that stuff together, figuring out how all those little tasks, those independent tasks go together in an autonomous fashion. That's really agentic AI, right? So being able to have these things kind of these systems of agents operate on their own to solve common tasks that we don't have to tell it, go look at time zones and go look inside the calendar. So that's all agentic AI means. And going back to the RAG application, we're seeing a blending of hybrid AI and agentic AI, or hybrid RAG and agentic AI. So we may augment our language model with RAG information, right? So we've got our proprietary information our language model knows about and can respond about the paint colors, for example. But now if I want to ask a question and say, open a ticket. So a customer called in and is having an issue with some of our paint. I want to open a ticket for that customer. So I can say, go and open a ticket. What that means is we've already done the RAG piece. We've trained our system to be aware of the paint colors that we sell, but what does open a ticket mean? Well, I don't know what that means, but that means go inside of, let's say, ServiceNow. So open a ticket is associated with going inside of ServiceNow. An AI agent might pick that up and say, well, how do I talk to ServiceNow behind the scenes? It has a very specific format of JSON document it needs to accept a new ticket from. So rather than say, here's how I want you to structure this JSON document. Here's the information I want to put in the ticket. Here's how to go and access ServiceNow, or whatever the application might be. An AI agent figures all of that out on its own, and it can open up a ticket for me based on the conversation we had coming back from a RAG. So the contextually appropriate information coming out of the RAG application leads to a discussion where I might try to answer my customer's problem. And if I find out that, oh, they really do have an issue, we want to open a ticket for them, I can just say open a ticket. And the AI agent goes along and it creates a ticket in ServiceNow, or again, any other application. So this blending of RAG plus agentic AI is what we're seeing people go towards quite a bit in 2025. And it's, again, all driven behind the scenes, of course, by making sure we've got the right data. And we know how, when we say open a ticket, what customer information have we pulled to put inside a ServiceNow? What's the issue with the ticket? What's the issue with our product? All coming from things like master data management, for example. So again, all the data quality and governance critical of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, a really good point. And you've got to have the right partner to help drive that and put that all together. But first principles are: do you have the right data management? Do you have the right data quality? Do you have the lineage? Do you have it mastered? Are you looking at all the systems as opposed to just Salesforce and your ERP system, as opposed to everything that's encompasses, as you said, ServiceNow and other things, which is super important. Would it be possible? Maybe we could take a couple minutes and take us through what this looks like in action.
Sure.
From a AI and data management standpoint. Do you think you could do a couple minutes on that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Before I jump into that, though, I just want to take one step back to your comment around having the right partner to help with this, because we can talk conceptually about these capabilities and how these things apply in these different AI systems. But because it gained such traction, obviously, everybody's looking to do something around AI. The scale at which these projects are going on and being implemented is too much for anyone to handle, right? It's just overwhelming. So Informatica, we have to rely on partners for the implementation. So I just want to kind of give kudos to Paradigm for for helping us with the implementation arm of this kind of thing, because we can come up with products all day, but if we haven't got people to actually make these AI projects successful, then our products, aren't very useful either. So thank you for that. It's a very good partnership.
Well, thank you. We're really happy to be your global, your global growth channel partner of the year for last year, and looking forward to continuing to add more value to not only our clients and our joint clients, but to Informatica moving forward in 2025 as well. We have a lot of clients who are really trying to put these pilots in place and really try to make sense of their data, and the Informatica tools, whether it be data quality, data lineage, or even mastering, right? Pulling those together to help enable their tools, especially those are in, let's call it both the manufacturing and retail space. We work with a number of cannabis companies that we're enabling. We work with a number of large equipment manufacturers and make those big trucks that go down into mines. And we work with a number of financial services, not only banks, insurance companies, and others that are really trying to really synthesize that data, right? Put that contextual components to those data, whether it be structured or unstructured, and really enabling them to not only drive their website sales or e-commerce sales up, or to increase their customer satisfaction across, multiple different folks that the different folks that they're trying to serve. So we're really fortunate to do that.
Yeah, and thanks for calling that out too. One more quick aside. I think we worked on a joint customer. Was a mining company, right? And this world, I just wanted to make a point that this world of AI is something new. This mining company, they've got these mining operations all over the world, and they've got these massive pieces of equipment and these giant trucks and things. And a lot of times they're scattered out in the middle of the desert in Australia. And if one of them breaks down, it's very costly, right? So they want to do preventative maintenance rather than, wait till the thing breaks and then go out and fix it and send a crew off to the middle of Australia or wherever it might be. And so there's these machines were streaming data for years and years. It's all this vibrational data that nobody really cared about. It's just a stream of numbers coming off all these big mining machines. And some data scientist comes along, they look at it and they say, hey, if we analyze all that vibrational data, we can start predicting when these machines are starting to go off, and we can send someone out to do preventative maintenance to keep the mining operation running. So that kind of subject matter expertise that's not something Informatica has, right? Understanding CPG and mining operations and all that. So again, we rely on Paradigm to bring that level of subject matter knowledge. And so I think that was still one of my favorite stories I talk about a lot. Is this was throwaway data coming off of these machines, and all of a sudden someone says, no, we actually want to use that. So anyway, yeah, I would love to kind of do a brief run through and show you what this looks like. So let me share my screen. Whoops. Brought up shortcuts by accident. Okay, so again, we talk a lot from the Informatica perspective, but we have a good tagline. Everyone's ready for your data. Everyone's ready for AI, rather, except your data. And what does that really mean, right? It's a great tagline. So what I'm going to try to do over the next 10 or 15 minutes or so is just kind of show you what that looks like. So the first thing I'll talk about is we've developed this idea of AI-ready data and broken it down into 3 pillars, right? Relevant data, robust data, and responsible data. So relevant data for AI has to be accurate and contextually sound. We talked about it a minute ago with the paint example, making sure that we're surfacing up information to AI applications that answers questions, and the data has to be correct and it has to be contextually accurate. Robust data, that goes to my mining example I just brought up a second ago. We need to make sure we're capturing all the data necessary to make these AI applications run, right? If we weren't capturing that vibrational data coming off these mining machines, we would never know that there was a predictive maintenance issue that we can go and address using data science and AI. So data is still locked even today in things like mainframes, cloud applications, streaming devices, right? Regular databases, unstructured data, PDF files, and video and audio, going in, making sure that our AI-ready data is robust. We're capturing everything, because when these AI applications, these chatbots, when we're asking them questions, again, there's no guardrails. We can ask any question we'd like. So we want to make sure that the AI has got all the data it needs to be able to answer these questions authoritatively. And then responsible data, and I kind of touched on this one a little bit too, with this idea of the forthcoming AI regulatory environment, which is already here. The European Union has the EU AI Act, which puts a lot of focus on high impact systems. For example, if I've got an AI system that is attached to the German power grid that decides when to turn power on and off for Germany, that's much more, interesting and kind of potentially impactful than Spotify deciding what songs I'm going to listen to next in my playlist. So these high risk systems, we're putting more scrutiny there. Now in the US, what's happening is we're going to roll out AI regulations at a statewide level. Colorado went first. California is likely to go second. But over the next few years, I expect 50 different flavors of AI regulations that we're all going to have to navigate across the US if we want to do business here and with regulating these AI systems. Every other country is looking at it as well. Brazil and Japan and Australia and Singapore and Canada, everyone is implementing some kind of AI regulation, which means that there's going to be a lot of impact. We don't yet know exactly what that impact is and what it means, but what we can say with authority is things like more transparency, more lineage, more governance, more being able to prove that we've tried to train our model with an eye towards ethics and fairness, having data such that the AI can make as non-biased decisions as possible, is all going to become much more relevant. So these are our three pillars of AI-ready data. And I'm going to show a little example. And this is the implementation scenario here. And this is something we built for our ecosystem events, Microsoft Ignite and AWS reInvent and those things, where people come along and they play this little game. And those in attendance, you can play along as well. So there's the URL up at the top. I think Nicola dropped it in the chat as well. You can also scan the QR code at the top right. And I've got screenshots of this coming up in a second. But if you want to play along at home, please feel free. I just did screenshots so I can highlight certain things, but it is a live AI application we built for this kind of event. The setup. So Next Tech is a fictitious company. It's not real, of course. And they sell build-to-order computer hardware. And we're configuring these different computer systems. Our persona is a supply chain analyst, and we're looking for certain things. We're looking for order information, product information, supplier information. So we're going to have a chat bot, as you'll see, where we're querying for the information or the kind of the goals on the right. The implementation is in the center. So it's kind of starting at the top left. We've got Informatica MDM, so product information, supplier information that's been deployed in a master data management application. Moving clockwise, our metadata, right? So our business glossary, our data catalog. So when we ask questions that require a business definition of something, we're able to respond with that as well. We've got Salesforce for an order management system. We've got down at the bottom our transportation risk report. That's a PDF document. So Chris, back to our chat about structured versus unstructured data. We want to make sure that we can go and pin those two things together and tie the structured with the unstructured. And then finally, our supplier performance database on the left. And I've got it's Oracle, but I've got a little note in there which says access control. And you'll see we want to back to the idea of regulations. We want to make sure that the AI responds in a way such that if I'm not authorized to see certain pieces of information, I shouldn't be allowed to see that. Right. So that's coming from our supplier performance database. So we've got all of this kind of disparate and separate information containing different things. How do we go and build an AI application on top of that? Well, that's the centerpiece. That's the supply chain AI assistant, which we've implemented at Informatica with an application integration approach. So calling APIs to talk to these different applications, calling APIs to talk to language models, and then orchestrating all that stuff together in an agentic manner. Right? We talked about agentic AI a second ago with this idea of a planning agent. So when I ask it a question, it needs to figure out what I'm asking. Then it hands off other tasks to things like execution agents and know how to go inside Salesforce, know how to pull information from Oracle, et cetera. So I'll jump into what it looks like here. This is the game instructions. It's for those of you who might have pulled it up. This is what we're looking for. There's the little hamburger on the top right of the screen. We'll bring you to this page with the instructions. And what we're looking for are these objectives in the center, right? The ID of an order pending review, name of the product in the order, unit price. Now, when we did this at the ecosystem events, we had a leaderboard, and so we assigned points and scores and things, and the top 10 people got to win Lego sets and stuffed animals and all that stuff. That part's not implemented today, but that was the initial point, and that's why we have points set up here. Okay, so we're presented with just a chatbot, and the first thing we want to find is the ID of an order pending review and name of the product in the order. So I might just ask a question, and I might say, show orders pending review. Right? There's no guardrails here. I can ask anything. I can say, tell me how to make an omelet, and it should come back and it'll say, well, that's not something relevant to supply chain analysis. So why don't you ask me something that's more relevant? But in this case, since we want to find the ID of the order and the product name, I might ask show orders pending review. Says it's processing the request. And I wanted to highlight this because it says determining source data for the query. So this is where the agentic piece comes along. It needs to figure out where to go to find orders in review. Now, we didn't tell it to go look inside Salesforce, but it knows that an order is something that lives inside Salesforce, right? So when it comes back and it says, here's our order ID, here's the product that we've ordered, and here's order status and quantity ordered, and a little explanation of what it did. So the user requested to see orders pending review. A query to Salesforce revealed one draft order. Now, I'm also going to highlight here the order details. We have the data source. The order details came from Salesforce. And again, we didn't tell it that it was in Salesforce. We just said, go find orders in review. So it brought that information back, and it says order is scheduled to be effective from September 19, 2024, not yet been activated, et cetera. So it gives us a little more information than we asked for, but that's helpful. So those were our first two objectives, right? Finding the order ID and the product. Now, the second thing we might be interested in is the unit price of the product. So inside of Salesforce, we have order information, but we don't necessarily have, the authoritative product information. So you'd think you'd want to go somewhere else for that. So I can ask the question, what is the unit price? Again, it says processing the request, determining the source data, and it comes back and it says our unit price is for this particular computer system is $14,876. Now, the interesting thing is, again, here is the data source, right? This came from Informatica Product 360. And this, which is our MDM application for mastering product. You can master customers, product suppliers, locations, all kinds of things. But in this case, we've implemented product mastering and supplier mastering. And again, back to our conversation around data quality, if I'm surfacing this information, if I'm surfacing a number, 14,876, that number had better be correct. So we needed to apply data quality. And if I'm from the perspective of responsible data for AI, if I'm in Japan, I don't want this coming up as dollars. I want this coming up in yen. So I need to make sure that those conversions are happening correctly. So all that information coming from the authoritative source of data, which in this case is master data management, right? The AI has to figure out where to go and get it from. In the first case, we just said, show me the orders. It said, oh, that's in Salesforce. Now I said, what's the unit price? Oh, that's something that lives inside of MDM. So the AI agent goes off to MDM and it figures that out. Now, the fourth thing, the primary supplier name for the GPU component, right? So in these servers, right, there's a structure of bill of materials. And so the GPU is just one component of those. So I might ask a question like, please describe the bill of materials hierarchy. I'm most interested in the primary supplier for the GPU. So it goes off and comes back and responds, and it says, well, the primary supplier is Montage Technology, and they're located in Shanghai, China, listed as a preferred supplier, but it also describes the structure, that bill of materials hierarchy, again, coming from master data management. And the reason I wanted to kind of highlight that is because that's this idea of going from structured information to almost unstructured, right? So the structured information is the bill of materials. We have a server. It has a variety of different components in it. And so there's power supplies and GPUs, et cetera. So it describes the different bill of materials. And it says, well, for the one we're interested in, here's a supplier name. So pulling that information back from, in this case, not strictly from our master data management, but it's also pulling it from Oracle, which is our supplier performance database. So you can see our supplier details with performance, Informatica supplier 360, right? So that's MDM plus Oracle. So now the AI has gone off and it said, oh, to answer this question, I need to go to two different places. So again, we don't have to have a person who knows how to go and issue a SQL query in Oracle or knows how to go navigate MDM to figure out the answer. They just say, tell me the most interested in the primary supplier, and the AI, the agentic AI, figures out where to go to respond to it. I wanted to point out a couple other things here. So there's metadata associated with this query as well. Last modified 11/30/2024, and a data confidence score. All right, so this is our data quality score. We're surfacing up, again, back to the idea of governance in the context of AI. We want to make sure that our answers are as authoritative as possible. So if we apply data quality behind the scenes and we're benchmarking that and exposing our data quality metrics, we can surface that here. So it comes along at the end and it says, would you like to query a different data set instead? This one has 100% aggregate data quality score down at the bottom. And so that of course sounds great to me. So I might say, yes, go ahead and please query the data set with the highest data quality score. And it comes back and it says, okay, well, using this other data quality score, now we've got the data confidence score you can see at the bottom says 100. So we're getting 100% data quality. And this would be a more authoritative data set we might want to use to ask our questions. Now, there's a couple of things here that I've just highlighted that might not be at first glance obvious. OLT and CLT and optimal AOD, what are those things? There's two numbers there, and there's what looks like an airport code, DFW, and it talks about, in some of the previous responses, it talks about FLL, Fort Lauderdale Airport, et cetera. So I don't necessarily know what those things are, but what I can do is I can click on one, say, oh, this is the cumulative lead time. And the other one is the order lead time, OLT is order lead time. It gives me a description of that. And so where is this information coming from? Well, that's coming from our business glossary, where if I'm a user and I'm exploring all this information, if I'm a supply chain analyst and trying to answer these questions, I might not know what OLT and CLT is. I can just have the AI reach out into the business glossary and surface that information as well. Again, trying to tie the business context into all this other information so we can make our data-driven decisions just by asking questions. So again, without having to go into understand, now I need to navigate a business glossary and I need to write a SQL query and I need to go into master data management. I can just have it surface all this right to me here. Then I can ask other questions about this. So very kind of unstructured questions that might not even be part of our little game, right? So if Fort Lauderdale is my optimal airport for receiving a GPU component, can you suggest a backup? I'd like to minimize cost and take into consideration, it cut off the bottom of it, but to take into consideration the risk level, the transportation risk level. So now it's gone off, and the part I've got circled here says transportation risk report. And again, that is that is a PDF document. So that's the RAG piece. We've taken the language model and we said, here is a transportation risk report document. And it contains information like you see at kind of at the top, where it talks about FLL's Fort Lauderdale, tropical storms and flooding, ATL is Atlanta, there's a potential hurricane impact, JFK is in New York, winter snowstorms, snow and ice. So it's pulled all that information out of the PDF document that we've trained it on, and it says, okay, now I can tie those two things together. My point before of taking the unstructured data and tying it to the structured data, we're doing that here. So we got the part ID, that's coming from our master data management. We've got unstructured information about airports and risks of flying into certain airports. We've got that coming from a PDF document. So now we're tying together the structured and the unstructured all with AI. So just a quick summary of what we just did and why Informatica is appropriate for these AI applications. And this is not something that's generally intuitively obvious, because Informatica, they're the ETL people, right? Well, that's true. We are the ETL people, and we're the MDM people and data governance people too, but we're also the AI people. So things like integration with these, you hear chunking and embedding and vectorizations, processing all this unstructured data. We do all that. Enforcing the data quality and observability that we talked about a minute ago. Right? Explainability and traceability, and the importance of that for the impact and complying with AI regulations that are existing and more coming out. Right? Guiding the LLMs using agentic AI, so letting the agents figure out how to answer the questions by accessing different data sets. Sensitive data protection via governance, unified master data, and then simplify this development. So when we built out the game we just played, a little exercise we just went through, we did not write any Python code or any Java code or anything else. We used a capability of Informatica's data management cloud called Cloud Application Integration that makes all these API calls. So it's drag and drop. We build it with boxes and lines and connect things together and say, based on what people are asking and the kinds of information people want, you might have to go talk to Salesforce or ServiceNow or SAP or whatever. So we kind of direct those processes via these AI agents we develop in our application integration approach. So with that, that's all I kind of wanted to go through, just to kind of make it a little bit more real. Again, these are screenshots, but you can go to that URL we had up a minute ago and try it yourself. So Chris, what do you think? Was that what we were looking for?
That really brings it to life. Thanks, Peter. You're right. So many of the folks out there still think of Informatica as my ETL company or ELT company or my mastering company, right? But I mean, you look at the power of having the connectivity between all those systems, having the quality components, having that business glossary, the lineage, and the value it delivers, whether it be asking for a unit price or trying to find the right location to go through, or trying to find what those codes mean. That's really compelling. I mean, the power of Informatica has really, is now exponential compared to where it was many years ago. And not only that, it's, tie that to the power of paradigm, and you've got a great combination to really enable our clients in the your example, supply chain, for example, to be extremely effective just by adding ad hoc questions, right? I mean, it's just incredible compared to where we were years ago. So No, you did
It's a
great.
bit of a nerdy game. It's a supply chain game. I was hoping we could make it a little more fun, but it's a little bit nerdy. But hopefully as you said, it kind of exposes the breadth of capabilities that are required for these different AI applications. The building the application itself is great, but if we don't have authoritative data under the covers, it's none of it's going to be as useful.
No, you're exactly right. And making it useful, whether it be supply chain, whether it be customer onboarding and financial services, whether it be, the analysis of, how operations are working at a nuclear power plant for our utility friends, right? There's just so many applications that this brings to the table by having that, CAI component to touch all those applications and to bring that data forward and also, tie that into Claire. I want to thank you again for running us through that, because that was just incredible. Thanks for the discussion today. I want to thank everybody for attending as well. I think if we think about where this really takes us, there's a couple of great opportunities for folks out there. And one is how ready are you, or how better yet, how ready is your data for AI? And the things that AI is going to empower. So that's one thing, and we at Paradigm, tied with our Informatica partners, are happy to help folks with a AI readiness assessment, which you can reach out to us at info@pt-corp.com or email Peter or myself. The second piece is coming out and getting a full demonstration of Claire and the impact Informatica has, and how Informatica is really enabling AI automation in data management. Not only that, but how is it Informatica enabling those ad hoc questions because of all the access and information that's really available to it. And then there's also a 60 days success. Some quick win opportunities for implementations. We're obviously Paradigm's uniquely positioned to help enable Informatica in your organizations or in our partner and clients' organizations, and in addition to that, enable those AI components and enable those AI pilots that have been so challenging over the years. So those are some great next steps and ways to really unlock that full potential. So having said that, thank you again. Appreciate your time. Peter, any final words on your side?
There was one quick question that I just answered in chat around who built that exercise and what language model we use in the back. So I built it, and I'm certainly not a hand coder. I built it with a couple of my teammates, one of whom wrote the front end in Python. The back was all using Informatica Cloud Application Integration. The language model we used under the covers was Anthropic, but it doesn't matter. We can call any of those. So the point is that without having to be a heavy coding technical background, we're able to build applications like that. And certainly our partners like Paradigm, if you want to build out a similar type of internal chatbot, right? Paradigm is certainly more than capable of doing that using Informatica in the background. So all those types of things, unlocking all the data, behind the scenes is really what we're going after here. So the partnership between Informatica and Paradigm lets us build those kinds of fun applications.
And unlocking the power of that data, right, and that information, right, and enabling folks to use it. So, no, thanks for catching.
I wanted to thank everybody. Sorry, Chris. I wanted to thank everyone for attending, and thank you, Chris, for hosting me. This has been great.
Right. Thanks, everybody. Make it a great day. And again, when you think of AI, when you think of data, when you think of being ready for answering those key questions, reach out to both Informatica and Paradigm. We're here to help and here to help you achieve your goals and be successful. Thanks, y'all.